How I made this Elizabethan inspired vampire queen neck collar for my vampire ball outfit. This was a surprisingly easy addition to my costume. I started by measuring from between my shoulders, over the shoulder, and to about where the armpit was at, which was about 14 inches, and then I measured from that same spot between my shoulders up to about how high I wanted it, which was about 16 inches. And now on to drafting the pattern. Started with a tapered semicircle with that 14-inch measurement around the shoulder, and then drew a straight line up the middle with that 16-inch measurement, and then drew a 12-inch line diagonally away from the other side of that shoulder piece. Next, used the measuring tape to measure how big the semicircle would be, and then I divided that number by the amount of sections that I wanted. It ended up being 5 6-inch wide sections. Marked those section lines on the outer semicircle, and then kind of eyeballed where I wanted the dividing lines to be, kind of make it tapered like a trapezoid, and then marked about 2 inches into the center of each of those sections and sketched out semicircles to make kind of like a spider web or like bat wing shape on those. Since I'll be making this out of EVA foam, I'm also going to adjust the vertical separator lines to make it a little bit concave, so that way it'll naturally bend backwards and I don't really have to shape the foam. And here's what all of those taper lines look like. Next, I'm just going to make some markers on my pattern, just so that way I know where to match up the pieces. And then when cutting out the pattern, cut along those curved concave lines. I taped all those pieces together just to make sure that it would work the way I wanted, and it did. So it was time to create it with a foam. Ideally, I would have gotten black, but all they had was white. I traced around all of the patterns for that one side with an ink pen, drawing those little marker lines, and then also labeling each of the pieces. And then used an X-Acto knife to cut all those pieces out. Then flipped the patterns over and did the same thing for the other side. Moved outside to a ventilated area and put on some nitrile gloves for protection and started applying the contact cement glue. Played a little bit of Stardew while that dried for 20 minutes, and then bonded the pieces together, starting at the bottom and working my way upwards, making sure to align those marker lines and get everything lined up properly. Before sealing and painting, I tried it on to make sure it looked right, and oh my gosh, it looked so good. Headed back outside and then did 2 separate coats of Plasti Dip, letting it dry down between coats and then dry overnight before adding appliques. Also, please wear a face mask whenever you use these glues and sprays. I made these appliques myself. That tutorial is in a different video, but I glued them on using E6000 glue. Kind of had to monitor them a little bit since it was a curved surface that I was gluing them to. They kind of slid around some before the glue dried. And then just attached it on with 2 strands of ribbon, which I tied in the back. Really, really love how cool this turned out. I'll probably wear it again for another costume.